All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this edition, Believe in Bills. Adam Benini, WGRZ TV and Sports Talk Live Buffalo. Sal Majorana of the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, as always. Special guest today. Happy to have Steve Tasker on from One Bills Live. And, obviously so much history and back in the early 90s. And arguably, I think, the best special teams player ever to play this game. Steve, always good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
I know this guy, Adam. I think I remember him from back in the day.
Yeah, right. That's how long we've been around. We covered him.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're all in the media. Imagine that. But Steve was always a good media guy. Adam and I always have this conversation when we have your former teammates on how some of them did not like the media and now they're all trying to be media stars. You always did like the media, so we welcomed you with open arms, Steve.
Yeah, well, now everybody's in the media. I mean, literally everybody. Everybody with a phone has got their own thing. So you don't have a choice. Everybody I know has got a podcast now, right? So yeah, it's that's the way. It's the world we live in. It's so easy to be heard. So everybody does it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, you during your time with the network at CBS and all the work you do on One Bills Live, WGR Radio, and MSG. It's a daily tune-in for me during the week now, especially. You and Chris Brown are just terrific. All right. So let's get into it. And as the offseason rolls on here and the draft is fast approaching at the end of the month in April, I mean, Sal and I have talked a lot, Steve, and you can go any way you want with this. I mean, your impressions of what's happened so far, whether it be the extensions to keep their own or some of the additions they've made. I mean, there's still some questions unanswered, but we think a pretty impressive offseason by Brandon Beane.
Well, they've certainly been working hard. The extensions they handed out seem both timely and smart. The guys they extended, you could see it coming from a mile away. They got it done early. They don't seem to have been affected by a market jump. They got them done early before the market kept going up. Benford, Khalil Shakir, Bernard, all those guys were, I guess Rousseau is the last one that went, I think. Getting those guys done was a huge, huge boost. So that was smart. And then going out and getting, even though, the suspensions came down for Hoyt and Ogunjobi, those guys are going to really help. And of course, Joey Bosa. And I'll say this too, if you spin all these signings and extensions in a positive way, it really looks good. Looks really good. The problem is you can't, and like with the Von Miller contract, you can't anticipate injury, but you can expect the guys they have signed and extended to play their best in this culture. McDermott and this staff have always gotten the most out of guys. And you got Vaughn coming in. Vaughn really thrived in this. You got guys that coming into this like Mac Hollins, for example, Poyer and Hyde in their day. Everybody on the roster really seems to have their talents maximized. So if you transpose that onto Hoyt, Ogunjobi, and Bosa, if Bosa can stay healthy, you got every reason to have some high expectations.
Yeah. I like the way they've been doing business, Steve, really for a few years. I think they've got a great handle on contracts and market values and all that. I look at, to take it out of football for a second, the Blue Jays just signed Vlad Guerrero to a $500 million extension. You know what? That could have been done 2 years ago for $300 million. And they botched it completely and dragged it on to this point now where now you've got a Soto contract and an Ohtani contract to look at. The Bills have avoided that situation. They have always seemed to strike, like you said, before the iron really gets hot for these guys. And those deals that they signed to Benford, I think, was an incredibly team-friendly deal, given what other cornerbacks have gotten. And the same thing for Bernard, Shakir, and Rousseau. I think Rousseau's is a team-friendly. So you got to love the way they've been getting their calculators out and doing these deals. I think it's been great.
You can make a case, too. Rousseau is a good player, not an elite player.
Right.
Benford, pretty close to being top 3 or 4 corner in the league. He doesn't have the gaudy numbers that some guys do, but a lot of it has to do probably with the kind of guy he is, and also probably because he wears number 47. Who knows? I mean, nobody knows that. Nobody's got a 47 jersey. But they do it. They pick the guys they extend because of the kind of guys they are. You look back at the guys who they haven't extended over the years. Gabe Davis, they loved Gabe, but they knew, given the production he had and the snaps he got, that he was going to get a big contract from somebody to go, and they let him go. Tremaine Edmonds, same thing, good player, but they let him hit free agency if they wanted. Now, they gave him an offer, I'm sure, but all those guys decided they wanted to see what they were worth, and they got more money someplace else, and that's fine. None of these other guys who extended did that.
I told Adam this probably on a show. I think the best break for the Bills with Benford is he never got a Pro Bowl nomination, All-Pro, none of that. That worked in the Bills' favor. You know damn well the agent is telling them, look, I don't care what the voters say, this is an elite player. But the Bills had that in their hip pocket, I'm sure, and they probably used that to their advantage. Yeah,
no question. Plus, they came to the guy early. I mean, they as soon as they could, they came to him saying, hey, here's what we're thinking. We love you. Want to do this. We'll give you the money right now. We'll give you this much money right now on this kind of deal. What do you think? And it's up to the players, but let's face it, they have created an atmosphere here at One Bills Drive where guys enjoy it. They like coming to work. And that means a lot for a lot of guys. Now, some guys it doesn't. But a lot of guys, it goes a long way, and they know that they can see themselves in future years thriving here. And they also know, obviously, too, that they're going to have a shot at the Super Bowl every year.
Can you compare that at all to – I want to ask you about Bosa specifically, but since you bring that point up, and we've asked others of your former teammates who we've had here on the show, and I'm interested in your answer to this question. How does that culture – because it's been so important and so critical to the success they've had under Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott. How does that culture compare, and it's a different era, but to how it was back in the early 90s with you guys?
Well, ours you kind of had to grow it from the dirt up. You couldn't – it was a different time. So because if, Jim gets drafted, Bruce gets drafted, Andre gets drafted, they ain't going anywhere. There ain't no free agency. They got no choice. So they went through some growing pains. And now, given some current head coaching techniques and the way guys have got it done, now coaches come in like McDermott, like Dan Campbell, like Aaron Glenn's going to try to do it in New York, and they rinse out the building, and they do some things actively to promote relationships with their players, amongst their players, and with the coaching staff, and the coaching staff with the coaching staff, and the coaching staff with their players. They create, and the training staff, the equipment staff. It's a real team building exercise, and they go through some exercises to get these people to open up to each other and have relationships. They do it fast now. They don't have to grow it from the ground up like the old Buffalo Bills did in the 90s, where these guys had to argue a little bit and then come to terms with it and become friends over time. They just, come in and do it. Now, for that to be effective, it works for guys who are here. But for a guy like Bosa or Hoyt or Ogunjobi, they got to hear about it. It sounds good, but I think the culture is for the guys that are actually in the building. Now they can hear about it, and they know that it's going to be one of those buildings like, okay, it's going to be a good culture. And then they come in, they find out, wow, it's great. But they kind of, it won't have a chilling effect on any of the signings. But I think you really got to be in the building to get the full effect of it and to understand what they're really talking about.
And one more quick follow from me here, Sal. I wanted to ask him, Joey Bosa, right? You mentioned him again. We were talking to Frank Reich's breakfast at the media roundtable this past weekend, the Call to Courage, and obviously his name came up. I think, what is that, 1 year, like 12.8, I think that wound up being. That's a terrific risk for a player. Now, I understand that the health history, and it's a variety of issues with him. But it seems like the right type of deal for a guy. They could easily strike gold on that one if they kind of manage him and keep him healthy. What's your overall take on that and what he potentially can bring? And what is that injury risk in your mind?
I think it's a smart move by everybody. It's going to be a perfect fit. He just wants a 1-year deal to prove he can still get it done. $12 million is a big nut, but it's only 1 year, and the cap goes up. I mean, they've got the money to spend, and particularly for a guy who can be productive like he can. They've probably got a little more faith in their ability to keep him healthy than the Chargers were able to do. It's a smart move for Bosa. It puts him right back out on the market. And, I just think it's a smart move by everybody. Bosa coming to a team where he knows he's going to have a chance to win. He knows he's going to be out there and he's going to be on the field. He's going to have a chance to showcase his talents. I think for Bosa, it's a smart move as well. He's going to enjoy it here. He's going to have some success if he can stay on the field, no question about it. So I thought it was a brilliant signing, and it made a lot of sense from the outside. I don't know who knows what Joey Bosa's thinking. I haven't spoken to him, but it certainly makes a lot of sense from this side of it. He's going to have a chance to win. He's going to have a chance to play in the playoffs where he hasn't done that much in LA, and he's going to have a chance to showcase and hit one more contract.
Yeah, because we're media professionals, that was the exact question I was going to ask you, because I wanted you to follow up on Bosa. And I think the culture, you're right, that had a huge part. Joey Bosa, a few years ago even, probably isn't coming to Buffalo. But now he, and I think many other guys maybe down the road, big name stars who are in the same spot, they're not laughing at Buffalo anymore like they did for 20 years. This is a destination.
I'll say this too. I think Vaughn's reaction to Buffalo and how he played it here had something to do with it too, because guys are calling Vaughn and asking him about it. And I think Vaughn has nothing but good things to say about what's happened to him here in Buffalo and how they handled him and his deal. The way they handle players, and in Bosa's case, particularly injured players, goes a long way. They protect players from themselves, and they don't just let the player play because the player wants to play. And that's something not everybody does.
Let me ask you about this too. I want your opinion on Josh Palmer, the wide receiver who I forget, Adam, I've written so much stuff. I think I did project him to the Bills, if I remember correctly. Guys, I think I did, right? Because I really liked his profile and especially what he could do for this team. What did you think of that signing?
Well, I didn't know Josh Palmer from anybody, but when you dig down into it, what he did in LA, with the Chargers, who he was on the team with in LA, I like his signing a lot better than I liked the Mac Hollins signing a year ago. Right? We didn't know Mac. Mac was a journeyman, and Mac, Hollins was a guy who came in and is the exact example we're talking about. A guy who came in unknown and thrived here and had his best year as a pro. I mean, he was a phenomenal player for the Bills. A surprise for most Bills fans too, I think. I think Josh Palmer's going to be that exact thing, except I think Josh Palmer's a better receiver. I think he's got a bigger upside on that side of it. Mac was fun and he did all that stuff, but I think Josh Palmer is going to be a better signing, more productive at that spot than Mac was able to be, even though Mac had a great season. I think Josh Palmer is a guy that is going to quickly become a dependable part of an offense. I like the receiver room better now at this point of the year than I did 12 months ago when it was Mac Hollins, it was Khalil Shakir, and a draft pick to be named later turned into Keon. But now you've got Keon coming back. You've got Khalil Shakir. You've got Josh Palmer. I'm kind of liking that group.
I was just going to ask you, defense tops the list of draft needs, we think, and a lot of people seem to feel that way. But since we're on the subject of the offense, and we saw the production, and we all know that it centers around the number 17, whether it be, obviously as he serves as a drawing card to have him in contention for a Super Bowl and have this window open for other players and some of the points you've made as well. But do you feel like, the numbers speak for themselves last year, but there seemed to be sort of an explosiveness dynamic, Steve, that was missing, like the downfield threat. And so as you referenced the passing game, do they still need that? What's your take on that?
I don't know if they need it or not. They scored more through the regular season and postseason last year. The Bills scored more points than any team in the NFL. So I don't think they're missing too much. Yeah. I don't think they're missing too much. You're splitting when you start getting into. They need a fast guy to you're splitting hairs. They've got. I'm not wasting any effort. I mean, look, they traded away a number one receiver and took a $38 million cap or $35 million cap hit to get rid of him. I think they've proven I don't even know if they want a number one receiver, let alone go out and spend a draft pick on it. Now, maybe Keon can be that, and on a rookie contract, maybe you'll take it. But they've proven, Josh has proven, they can score. I mean, they scored 30 points or 30 or more points in 12 of their 15 games last year. So I don't think they're missing anything on this offense. As long as Josh is pulling the trigger, they're going to be great. They're a handful. So, better players make you better, sure. But with the signings they've already signed, they can make the claim that they're better.
So Cook is the one guy that has not gotten the extension. I fully agree. I think Adam does too, that they're playing that the right way too. What's your take on the running back position? Look, he's a very good player for them. There was no doubt the 16 touchdowns stand out. It was funny, his production, his yardage actually came down from the 23 season. But is that in your mind? Now, you guys had Thurman for a decade, but he was a Hall of Fame player. Is running back a spot where, look, James, play this year. We've really appreciated having you. We'll find somebody else. Is that how you feel about running back?
I think they'd love to keep him on the roster, no question. But like you said, it's a spot that the longevity is in question. He's a very good player. He might be. In fact, you could probably put him in the elite category. I mean, unless you just put Derrick Henry and Saquon by themselves and everybody else behind him. I think James Cook's at the top of the next level, right? At least. He was a home run hitter. He had a lot of long runs. He did a lot of really good things, but that spot is one that you're not going to spend a lot of money on because the difference between an elite running back and everybody else isn't far enough.
Yeah.
And the Bills, not taking anything away from James, but the Bills have an outstanding offensive line, and they got a quarterback who is really good. So whoever they get at running back, their game is going to be elevated anyway by the offensive line and the quarterback.
Exactly what I've been saying right along, Steve. It's offensive line. You could put a lot of guys behind that offensive line and play the way James Cook did.
I'm not saying they'll play as well as James Cook or be as good, but the difference isn't going to be enough to pay the guy $15 million a year.
Right.
There's just no way.
Exactly.
And you can – I mean, we all like Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, and those guys were not number one draft picks, even number two draft picks. You know what I mean? So, I think the ease of replacement is the problem for the running backs in the NFL these days.
So, I mean, like you said earlier, in terms of the extensions they have, the players they have signed, those are all, as Sal referenced, team-friendly deals. $15 million for James Cook obviously is not that, and all of it's sort of built to manage the cap and keep this Super Bowl window open as long as you possibly can with Josh Allen in his prime years. I want to switch gears and go to the draft now, Steve, because I know you and Chris cover that a lot on your show. And I think Sal and I both agree that there is a need at defensive tackle and a particular type of defense. Kenneth Grant from Michigan comes to mind with, that 330 pounds, that sort of a thing. If you use the Eagles as an example, and maybe what the Bills have lacked in that area, really since the first AFC Championship game loss to the Chiefs, maybe some of that girth inside and up front. Do you see it that way as something they may address in the draft? Yeah,
I think so. I think they're going to come out of here with one defensive tackle for sure, maybe two, maybe an edge guy as well, and a corner. Defensive tackle is something. Not only do they need to get younger and bigger, and get more athletic, they just need bigger, better, younger players with higher motors, higher activity, more production. This is a great draft for it. They're very deep at defensive tackle. There's a lot of really good ones up in the top 2 or 3 rounds of this draft. There are going to be guys who are going to be very solid players for a while in the NFL. The Bills need to get a couple of those. You can bet that they're probably, saying that to themselves right now. So yes. And Kenneth Grant, the kid from Michigan, has been a guy that's been mocked to the Bills like did it 50 out of 60 times, right? I'm exaggerating, but he no player in the national, for national media, you go out and we have Maddie Glab here. She goes out and scours and finds, I think we're up to like 60 or 70 mock drafts. Kenneth Grant's been mocked to us, 25 times, something like that. Just that guy, the one guy, which probably obviously means we have no shot at getting Kenny Grant. But you get the idea. That's where we're sitting as we approach the draft here. Everybody thinks the Bills are going to take that guy. You could talk me into one of the top corners as well. I'll do that. Or if one of the top 2 or 3 safeties falls, maybe I could see him taking a first-round safety. That's a stretch a little bit, though, but I could see him doing it. But it's defensive tackle for me at number 30. I've been telling my co-host Chris Brown, I don't even think it's a coin flip's chance that the Bills pick at 30.
I agree.
I think
that's lead me right what I was going to ask you. Put yourself, because you try to do it every day, you and Brownie try to be the GM of the team, like Adam and I do too. If the opportunity was there to go up, trade up, and get one of those corners, say it's Will Johnson, who seems to be slipping a little bit to the middle of the round. Jahdae Barron is a terrific player. If the Bills see an opportunity to go up and get a corner, knowing that the defensive tackle draft is so deep and they can get one in the second round, would you do that for a corner because they need a corner so badly?
Yeah, if it's the right guy, and it depends on the expense, Sal. I'm not going to give up 2 1s and a 2,
Right.
I'm just not going to do it. It's very expensive to move up in the first round. You move up a couple of spots, but it's going to cost them. And that you'll have to weigh that. Now, they do have 10 picks. So, okay. I don't mind them, lopping off 2 to 3 of those and moving up a couple of spots for a guy. And if it's a corner, I'm happy to do it. There's a couple of names in this draft that you could go down, Jahdae Barron, all of those guys. But there's also some guys that are like Christian Benford, right? You can get them later. And if they thrive in your system, you've got exactly what you were looking for, like you did with Christian Benford. You got an elite corner in the 6th round. So the Bills still have that up their sleeve as well. They could do that and still pick 10 players.
Let me ask you this real quick, too, since we're on corners. Savon Ravel.
Yeah.
If you're the Bills, okay, you are in a Super Bowl win now window. Would you take the swing on a guy coming off an ACL?
He's good. He's good. I like him. He's tall and slender. And he seems like he's got the right kind of personality.
Yeah.
He's a upstanding young guy, articulate. He's sharp. That's a good question. And it'll be, it's about the medical and how do we know if he's going to be ready? Well, think about it. If he's going to be ready like week 6 of the regular season, and then you're getting Hoyt back, Ogunjobi back, and Siobhan Ravel back, you got to get through those first 6 games of the season, and then you're shifting gears with personnel, and you got a chance to take it up a notch. Maybe you find your way to do that, but that for a guy like Ravel, I don't know. Not at 30, I wouldn't think, because you're going to have your chance at some guys you can actually get in and play, and they're going to be as much of a sure thing as Ravel is.
That's what I asked. That's the worry, is that he's coming off the ACL. He's not going to be ready probably to start the season. If you're the Bills, do you take that chance? Because you need to fill that position right away.
Yeah, but so what team would do that though? What team is not like if you're, say for instance, you're the Bears or the Chicago or the Arizona Cardinals or some team, or Jacksonville, trying to climb back into relevancy at this point in history? You remember the Bills took Willis McGahee.
Yeah,
that's like, dude,
what?
That's a hard pill. It's a hard pill to swallow. You got to get better now. Yeah. So it's a hard pill to swallow for your fans and for, your owner and your GM. They're sitting there with this draft pick. And then, of course, it's the law of who was a vet. It's the rule of who was on the board. Now, 3 years later, who was on the board when you picked this guy with a busted knee,
Yeah.
So you're a victim of that as well. If somebody behind that pick comes out and becomes a Hall of Famer.
All right. So in the time we have left, Steve, I know you have a meeting to get to, and we appreciate your time here on the show, Believe in Bills. I wanted to ask you about some of the rules changes, and I won't run down the list. I mean, I would ask you which ones strike you, and I'm particularly interested, given your history as such an accomplished special teams player. The touchback situation to the 35. I mean, they're trying to tweak that. They've made it safer, but they want the returns to go up, and it seems like that makes sense. And also, we have another Bills sort of legacy change with the Hawkeye for the first downs. I mean, I thought that's pretty significant. What maybe based on those two or some of the other ones kind of stood out to you?
Yeah, I like the kickoff thing. Moving out to the 35, you're starting to get to where now, defensive coaches are like, well, come on, what are you going to do? Give them midfield here, I think it will increase kickoff returns. I think it gives an enhanced value to the return team. And the return guys in particular, every team's going to be out there. You always did look for a good return guy, but you'd return, 10% of the kickoffs in a season. That's going to change. And the guys who you have now, you're going to have a backup because that guy might get dinged. So I think, the kickoff is going to become a much more relevant play in games these days. You're going to see a lot more kicks taking the distance.
Steve, why couldn't they just move the kickoff back to the 30? Leave the touchback at the 30-yard line. Why can't they just push the kicker back 5 yards? You're going to get more balls in play that way without changing anything else. I don't get why they didn't do that.
I think because it incentivizes the kicking team to put the ball in play. If you move it back 30 yards, you're still going to have a kicker who's going to try and kick it out of the end zone.
But it's going to be much harder to reach it. You're going to have guys taking it maybe 1 yard deep, How
many kicks? I don't know the numbers, but how many kicks do you see going all the way out the back of the end zone? There's a ton of them. And here's the thing, too. All it has to do is land in the end zone. Once it lands in the end zone, it's a touchback anyway. So you don't have to go out the back of the end zone. And I think what they're doing now with the 35-yard lines, they're incentivizing the kicking team to put it in play. And that's I think what they were trying to do. The return team is not going to have a choice. They're not going to be able to let the ball land. If the ball lands in the landing area and it goes into the end zone, it's only out to the 20.
Right.
So the return team's got to get their hands on it and get it out of there. So it does incentivize both teams to get that ball and move it, and it's going to incentivize the return team and the coverage team to get him inside the 35. At least you gain a couple of yards now if you get them inside the 35, and most coverage teams can do that. You're going to have a big incentive for teams to enhance the roster value of their kickoff coverage team and their kickoff return team. And it comes down to roster building. I think it's a fundamental change in what they're looking for in those roster spots. And that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. We may never know the details of it, but I think that's really an interesting aspect of this.
All right. Very good, Steve. We're going to let you go because I know you have some business to attend to there in Orchard Park. Obviously, we'll see how this rule evolves. The tush push, if there's any sort of ruling on that, of course, has been tabled. But we very much appreciate your time. Thanks so much for being with us, Steve.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right. Steve Tasker, former Buffalo Bill. One Bills Live with Chris Brown on WGR Sports Radio and MSG. Sal Majorana, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. I'm Adam Benini, WGRZ TV. Thanks for being with us here on Believe in Bills.